We acknowledge that the land we gather on is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We recognize the traditional territories of the Huron-Wendat and Haudenosaunee people. We also acknowledge the First Nations, Inuit, Métis people who live on these lands today. We commit to working towards reconciliation. We at the Women's Center are surrounded by such support, and I have a strong lineup of board members. Some are in attendance this evening. Please give a wave, board members. I also have the most amazing staff team that have worked so diligently to make tonight a success. Give a wave as well, staff. Some of you will recognize Amanda. She is the face of the center, and certainly the most knowledgeable when it comes to sports, because I have about this much athletic ability.
I'm Amanda Galbraith. I'm proud to stand before you as a former athlete, the operations manager at the center, a 3-time fantasy sports champion, a fan of all Toronto teams, especially the newly formed Toronto PWHL.
And I can just tell you, Amanda went to great lengths to find some PWHL swag. I can tell you she was 1,200 stores she called, stopped at 100 places, can't get it. That's how popular it is.
Gonna rob Jill Knowles later.
Jill will get you an escort home.
A little bit about the Women's Center. We support women who are experiencing crisis or distress or who are in transition. We empower women to be their best self. The Women's Center is a place to learn, grow, get support, and become empowered. We've got an excellent digital auction set up tonight, proceeds from which will help the Women's Center continue providing those supports. We've also just added an exciting new item. Victoria Bach brought us in a signed jersey, so make sure that you're bidding wildly on these items. Before you leave, you can grab anything that you win.
The auction will close at 8 p.m., so just watch your watches there. We'll try and give you a reminder on that. At the center, we meet some pretty amazing people. Jill Knowles is one of those, and she certainly wanted to participate in this event. As well, thank you, a big round of applause to Gavin, Gavcom in the back, for stepping up last minute so that we look professional with our mics. He got a call yesterday.
Every day, but especially on International Women's Day, we celebrate the achievements and contributions of women worldwide. Today, let us delve into a realm that has the power to unite, empower, and break those barriers, the world of sport.
I'd like to invite Mayor Krantz to say a few words of welcome. His worship is a gold medalist in mayoring, as he is the longest standing mayor in all of the world. He says Canada, I say all of the world. An important sports fact about Mayor Krantz. He has a female family member, Darlene Krantz, in the Milton Sports Hall of Fame for Jiu-Jitsu. Mayor Krantz, as always, we appreciate you being here.
Well, Kate, thank you very much for having me here, and I know you got to turn that down when I get this booming voice going here. First of all, you and I have known one another for longer than most people in around. To give your age away and mine as well.
So, Krantz, I thought you liked me. Please don't date me. Please do not age me.
Well, age is like good wine and good cheese, Kate. The older it gets, the better it gets. So.
Thank you, Mayor Krantz.
But on the sincere side, I just want to thank you, Kate, and all the organizers for having me being here this evening. And of course, you know I've attended many of these, and I've always been a big supporter of women's and women's rights. I think we've come a long way over the years. And again, I was first elected as a councillor in 1965, and there was very few female women involved in public life at that time. And it started probably shortly after I was elected, and I don't take any or much credit for that at all, but I think it was because of the message that was getting out there. We wanted more inclusion there. And with me today, and I don't know whether they're going to have an opportunity to say a word or two, I have no idea, but two of my elected colleagues are here with me tonight. Christine and Samira.
Thank you
Keeping
both
that-
for being here.
Yeah, keeping that tradition going. Getting back to my niece, Darlene Krantz, you're right. She's in not only the Milton Sports Hall of Fame, but she's also an international world champion, either 2 or 3 times over, I'm not sure, with the female category, defending her title internationally, worldwide.
So we need her to walk Jill to the parking lot so she
Well,
gets to keep her jersey.
The odd part of it is, she's really slight. She's not very big. And boy, you would never ever want to shake her hand unless you really knew what you might get into there as well. So thanks very much for having me being present, and look forward to the chit chat, as I refer to it tonight. Thanks.
And you know what, Mayor Krantz, we can argue that maybe there needs to be more representation of women on council, but that's for a different day. We'll have that discussion.
I couldn't agree with you more, but it's still called democracy.
Christina, Samira, do you want to comment on that? I'm not sure we do. Thank you, Mayor Krantz, for being such a strong advocate of the work we do at the Women's Center, but women in general, and the awesome community of Milton. Thank you, Mayor Krantz. Powerhouse of speakers who collectively champion inclusivity. Our guest of honor today is none other than Tessa Bonhomme, a trailblazer, a champion on the ice, and an advocate for breaking down barriers in the world of sports. Tessa's illustrious career in hockey not only speaks volumes about her skill and dedication, but also underscores the importance of creating a level playing field for all, regardless of gender. Let us welcome Tessa Bonhomme with the admiration and respect she deserves. May her story ignite the flame of empowerment within each of us. A round of applause and Sellies. I had to throw some hockey slang in there for Tessa. Welcome, Tessa Bonhomme. Did you like your walk-up song then?
I didn't get to pick it, but yeah, I dig it. You pick that for me? Thank you. We'll do the questions after. You want to do those now?
No, you go.
All right, well, first of all, hello everybody. Thank you for coming out. How about those snacks? Am I right? Little Oreos, late night pickup. I'm down. I won't take much of your time because, as Kate said, we got an awesome panel, and I want to hear from them as much as all of you do. But I'll just tell you a quick story about my upbringing, how I ended up where I am, and why. My opinion on why. As mentioned, my name is Tessa Bonhomme. Actually, I'm a proud Miltonian. I do live here with my husband and 2 kids. Woo! So thank you all for coming and really leaning in. I was born and raised in Sudbury, Ontario, just a quick 4-hour drive north. You know where it is? I like you, Mayor Krantz. All right. You cheer for the 7 Wolves? Hope so. You better. I was a very athletic, active, blonde-haired little girl that constantly had, grass stains on her knees. Having kids now, I owe my mom so much because I understand how annoying laundry is and what it's like to have 2 very active kids. But I was rarely inside. I was always outside. I grew up in a neighborhood where there was a lot of boys, and they were always outside playing anything from tag to football to basketball, and of course, street hockey. Most would automatically think, growing up back then, that my dad would be, the biggest and most influential person on my career. And there is truth to that. I'm not going to take any part away from that from my dad. He was my coach. He was my mentor. He did teach me a lot about the game. But it would be not fair for me to say that my mom, and the women in my family didn't have a very large role in getting me to where I am and standing in front of all of you here today. You see, I come from a family of very strong, independent women. My mom was 19 when her father died. My grandmother had 4 children to take care of, so she immediately took on 2 jobs and raised all of them. My mother obviously had to help raise her younger sister and brother, and so on and so forth, getting jobs young, making sure that everybody was taken care of and that things were running smoothly. On my father's side, my grandmother is an East Coaster, so her thing is always, well, why not? Sure you can, get out there. And that was embraced in our family. We were a family that had a lot of young ladies in it, and so all of these strong, independent women that we saw making their way by themselves, making ends meet, really rubbed off on all of us. And in their eyes, there was no reason why they couldn't. I grew up watching my mom play softball, albeit it was very highly competitive. There was sliding in it. The ladies on the team would swear, and I loved it. I was on the bench eating spits, having a grand old time, watching them kick some butt. So I saw my mom being an active individual. The daycare I went to was run by a wonderful woman named Shauna Cresswell, and she had 2 sons and a very young daughter. There was also a lot of boys that went to that daycare as well, and all they did was play street hockey. And quite frankly, I was tired of playing with my sister. I saw her every day, so I joined in on the street hockey every day. And she noticed how much I loved playing hockey. And it had nothing to do with me being, happy to finally playing with someone else other than my sister. It had to do with the game. So when my parents picked me up one day, she had mentioned to them, she was like, you know what, Tessa's having a lot of fun up there playing street hockey with all the kids. My husband coaches an outdoor hockey team. If you want, he'd gladly take her on it. And my parents are like, well, we'll talk about it on the ride home. And I vividly remember this conversation. Now keep in mind, my father was an OHL scout for over 35 years. He was a hockey player himself. He coached, okay? He was involved in the sport of hockey. And I remember in the car, my dad giving it a hard no, telling my mom. It was a mild argument, but he was like, no, there's no way any daughter of mine's playing hockey. And my mom, being that independent woman that she was, said, well, if my daughter wants to play hockey, she sure as hell's gonna play hockey, so I'll do it myself. And that day, thank you for my mom, yep, go Debbie. If my mom wouldn't have done that day, I don't know if I would have ended up playing hockey. I don't know if I would have done the things that I did, and I don't know if I would be here in front of all of you. So thank God for my mom and for standing up for her daughter on that day. She marched across the street. We got out of the car. She didn't even go in the house. She went across the street to my friend Chad's house and asked his parents if we could borrow his small hockey gear to see if I even liked playing. We weren't sure, so my mom wasn't going to go out and buy gear. So my mom went and got the gear, and she came home lugging that bag inside, and she put it down. She said, Tessa, get in here. So I ran in the room super excited, and well, the hockey ladies back there wouldn't know what these are, but I had a girdle and Cooperalls, and I was so stoked, and I was running around the house in them, and my sister was like kicking me in the shins, and we were having a good time, and my mom brought me to the first practice, and I'd already known how to skate. My dad, that was just one thing. His kids were gonna know how to skate regardless. And so I was up there, and I think my dad saw the love that I had for the game, how happy it made me, and it kind of resonated with him because obviously the game had given him so much as well. He went away on an athletic scholarship to Clarkson University, so he knew, what opportunities were out there. And so that's when he immediately bought in. He was like, how am I gonna steal this from my daughter when it's happening right in front of me? So he was in full bore, immediate life coach, immediate hockey coach. He was just in 100%. So unlike all of the young ladies that are growing up nowadays, I maybe even fortunately, didn't have a girls team to play on, so we didn't have an organized girls hockey league. So I was on boys teams for the most part growing up, and I played on a organized boy team, a AA team that was on the outskirts of Sudbury in Coppercliff. Now the man that ran that organization, I still know him to this day. I won't say his name because I'm not going to say some nice things about him, but he was not a fan of having a girl play in the organization. To him, it was such a burden to have someone that had to change in, well, the closet, a bathroom, wherever, and then when I was half dressed, join the boys in the locker room. Luckily, my parents never really made a big deal of it. I had my gitch on under my dress clothes when I went to the rink. I would wait outside the locker room until all the boys had their gitch on and some of their gear, and I'd walk in and get changed with them like it was no big thing. The boys didn't make a big deal of it. I was one of them. They loved having me there. The parents loved having me there, and the coaches really made me feel included. So that was huge for me, right? Everybody was buying into this, having me around. And to be honest, I wasn't one of the best on that hockey team. I was just lucky to be there, quite frankly. I was one of the youngest. The coach, Wally, saw something in me, loved that I had so much joy playing, and decided to take me along. So thankfully for them, they kind of helped grow my love for hockey. So I grew up playing hockey in my driveway, dreaming of playing beside the likes of Mario Lemieux. Sorry, this is my phone going off. This is work. I apologize. Beside the likes of Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky. I didn't really care who or where I got drafted, as long as I was playing along one of those guys. And my dad never really squashed those dreams that I had. He would just keep passing me the puck, giving me tips as I was shooting it into the net, and let me believe that that was something that was attainable for myself. He kind of kept my dream alive. he'd point out players in Sudbury at the Sudbury Wolves, because he was an OHL scout, so I was privy to going to all those games. Who I should emulate my game after. Look at how neat it is that guy did that. So to be honest, I started realizing, well, hold on, why am I giving her male role models? This makes absolutely no sense. And this is where I love my dad so much for this, because he did not have YouTube, social media. Women's hockey was never on TV. Once a year at the worst time of day when the Women's World Hockey Championship was taking place, and it was only the final game. And so for my dad, it was like he was just scrounging. He was trying to find any magazine he could in any rink that he was in. And my mom actually was mentioning, she's an optician, and she is a rep who had a connection to the Toronto Arrows. And he would always ask, how's Tessa's hockey going, blah, blah, blah. And my mom was like, really good. Doug's really struggling to find female role models for her. Do you know of any? And out popped Geraldine Heaney. There's obviously Sherry Piper, there's Therese Brisson, there was a ton of them, but Geraldine Heaney, she was an offensive defenseman. She played just like I played. And I taped her picture up with her stats underneath. She was 5'7", 140 pounds, and that's exactly what I was gonna be. I lied on my card, I was not 5'7", I was 5'6", but I was 5'7" when I wore my skates, so that's what I wrote down. When I actually ended up making it. And I was 138 pounds, but I added 2 because I figured with all the gear on, that would slowly round up to about 40.
I have never heard of a woman wanting to add pounds.
It's important. It's important. My dad was a scout. He ingrained that in me. You had 2 pounds and an inch. Yeah, so I felt like in that moment, that's kind of when my dream shifted a little bit, because it wasn't too long after that it was announced that the 1998 Olympics were going to include women's hockey as a sport, which is so weird to say. The Olympics are going to include women's hockey as a sport. Like, it's a sport. Do you know what I mean? It belonged there long before that. However, so my dream shifted from playing with Wayne and Mario to wanting to be Geraldine Heaney's D partner. And it's cool now because I can say that we're buds and we actually have a cold beer once in a while. So once body contact started with the boys, my long blonde ponytail quickly became a massive target. And my mom was like, I've seen enough of this, let's do something about it. So my dad was scratching his head thinking, all right, what are we gonna do now? And in the summertime, I played soccer with a bunch of athletic ladies. They were fantastic. Their parents were so much fun. So my dad was like, well, let's just turn this summertime soccer team into a wintertime hockey team. And that's exactly what we did. We were literally a traveling circus. And we had as much fun as the parents did on the road, as I'm sure a lot of you can imagine. I see a lot of young faces out there. Sounds like you guys have a lot of fun too, all you parents. That's good, that's a big part of it. So they created a girls hockey team. And what we did was we played against the boys just without body contact, much to the chagrin of the boys' parents. We kicked their butt on a nightly basis. Just with that, the 14 girls that were able to play both hockey and soccer, 8 of them went away on athletic scholarships. So that just says something about, and we're from Sudbury, okay? So, I mean, that also says a lot. Not about we're great people up there, but just about, you know, the pool of athletes to choose from. We're breeding some great athletes up there. We all went away to university, we all had fun. We would come back and there would be those moments where we would talk about, I went to Ohio State University, our ladies, yeah, go Bucks. We play out of the OSU ice rink, right, Emma? What's the men's arena like compared to ours? Yeah, so we would come back at Christmas time, all of us, all the 8 ladies that went away, and we'd talk about the discrepancies, you know, between the gear that we would get, or the arenas that we were playing in, or the pitches that they were playing on, or practice facilities, or even, you know, the weight room. But we'd always just quickly throw that aside and move on to the positives and talk about how the game was growing, and you know, our favorite athletes. Mia Hamm was one of my favorite athletes as well. I don't know if it was a way to protect ourselves or simply keep ourselves naive, but it wasn't until my under 22 hockey years, when I played with the national team, that I realized, like, hold the phone here. Like, this is the top, and why are we being treated this way? And we were getting the leftover basketball shorts from the World Junior team, and it was like, I was wearing shorts that were down to my ankles, and I remember coming back and my dad's like, what are they giving you this stuff for? And I was like, good question, Dad. You know, I don't know what we're getting this stuff for. And I remember that kind of stuck with me a little bit. I was and am a creative mind. It's how I ended up in the field that I work in now. And so, to me, I knew it wasn't really hard to make or create content, especially with the ladies that were in the locker room. Everyone had such a fantastic story, whether it was theirs or their families or the hardships that they, had to endure to get to where they were, whether it be injury or simply, parents trying to make ends meet so they could play. And so I never really understood the concept that, there wasn't more accessibility to all of us. There wasn't more coverage. People saying, oh, who would want to watch that? Who would want to listen to this? And it's like, to me, it was so foreign because I had grown up my whole life with everybody that was just bought into us doing it, that supported us doing it, that wanted us doing it in our small community up north. I mean, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I watched the 1998 Nagano Olympic final. Everyone remembers the wild game well, I shouldn't say everybody because there's a lot of people that may not have been born. Those of us that were, we remember the game in 2002 when Canada played half the game shorthanded and they ended up winning the thing, and then Wick did that epic end of the game interview with Don Cherry saying, the Americans had our flag on their floor and now I want to know and if they want to sign it, that kind of thing. 2006, it was the fall of the Americans. Sweden won the silver medal that year. They defeated them in the semifinals. We were so happy for Sweden. We still kicked their butt, but we were happy for them that they got their silver. 2010, we sold out every single game. Our numbers were massive. They were equal to the men's that year. Equal. 2014, what a wild finish, okay? For those of you who are like, 2014, bring me back to that one. That's the game when Canada was down 2-0, okay? And they stormed back. It was 2-1. Okay, the Canadians pulled their goalies, the Americans shot the puck, Kelly Stack shoots the puck down the ice. It hits the post. The game could have been over. It wasn't. The puck hit the post. I think it was Megan Augusta, grabs the puck, wheels back up, Canada goes down and scores, ties the game. This thing goes to overtime. Haley Wickenheiser's on a breakaway, Hillary Knight's back-checking trips her, Canada goes on a power play. Who else but Marie-Philippe Poulin scoring the game-winning goal? After, right? God, I love Mary. Thank God she's Canadian. I did so many speaking engagements after that game, so many events, and I had kids and parents, kids coming up to me saying, I didn't have to go to class that day. My teacher put it on the TV so we could watch, and this is what happened, and that's what happened. And I'd go to these speaking events, and I would ask men and women alike, what was the score in the men's final? And people were like, did Sidney Crosby score? I mean, you have a 50-50 chance. Likely he did. Who were they playing? Crickets. No one had any idea who the men were playing. Did Canada win? And people would be like, well, yeah, of course they did. Yes, Canada, the men's team, won that game. They beat Sweden 3-1. Sidney Crosby did score, but nobody knew it. Yet everybody could recount that women's final that was against the US. That is just epic and will go down in history as probably one of the best in a very long time. 2018 was the year the Americans got the gold back. Ticked off every Canadian. We had 4 years to stew on that one. So 2022 is when Canada ripped it from their hands and brought it back to Canada right where it belongs, and that's where we are right now. All of that being said, look, I played in it and I cover it, that's why I know all of this, but as I'm throwing it out there, it's bringing something back up in your mind. You guys all know the story of the women's hockey game, and I'm not even talking about women's soccer. We could go into women's soccer and say how they ignited our nation as well. How about rugby sevens, those women? We all fall in love with these women every 4 years, so it boggled my mind, and it still does. Why is it that we're so hungry every 4 years? Every 4 years, we are the most watched event at the Olympic Games, and yet for some reason, we cannot convince everybody that we could not convince everybody that this game, there's an appetite for it, and everybody wants to see it until obviously the PWHL is there right now, and they're totally kicking butt and maintaining speed. All of that said, I think that the moment I realized that we had a little bit of a problem and it was going to take a lot for it to get to where Project 8 is right now, the Women's Soccer League that's going to be launching in Canada, and PWHL to get to where it is, was that I felt like I had to be a difference maker because I got my foot in the door as a broadcaster, and I remember being so stoked. And Cassie Campbell was saying to me when I first got in, was that, just stay motivated and keep your head up. And I never understood that until I went into one of my boss's office and I had a really great idea. And I was like, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna follow. I had a sponsor and everything on board. It wasn't gonna cost our company anything. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna highlight the women on the team, and we can launch something on .ca every week so that corporate Canada and Canadians alike can get to know these women behind the mask, because they do wear a mask, and that's one of the knocks against our sport, is that we can't really see their faces. You don't really get to know who they are. And I had this great idea, and it was a hard no, and it was quickly thrown out. And I left there completely discouraged. I was confused, I was ticked off, and I didn't know what to do. So I called Cassie, and I went on a rant, and she calmed me down and just encouraged me to keep pushing. Find ways. Find ways. There's people that are gonna listen. There's people that want that content, that want to get to know these women. And I have an amazing boss who's in charge of remote coverage. And every year when we do the Women's Worlds, myself, Cheryl Pounder, Rod Black, who used to be the play-by-play guy, now it's Kenzie Lalonde, who's absolutely killing it in the game. We would throw ideas at him. We should do this for the women. We got to do this going for the women. And he was like, absolutely. He would agree to do it, and he'd make sure he got it done just as we said, if not better. And I love this guy because the one year he put every single game that was happening on the World Juniors on TV, and he made it accessible to everyone around the world. And I remember when I was done covering that World Juniors, we sat down and we were having a drink together, and he was like, did you like that? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it should grow the game of hockey around. He's like, we're gonna do the same thing for the women. And in 2021, we did. We did the exact same thing for the women. We put every single game, whether it was, Hungary against Japan, or whether it was Canada against USA, it was on TV, and it was made accessible to those countries. A lot of countries bought broadcasting rights to air those games. So those ladies that played for Team Hungary, I don't know if you talked to them, Emma, at all, or Victoria, but they were so stoked that their friends and family could finally watch them compete at a Women's Worlds. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's cool, but imagine the ones that don't even know you, that haven't even thought of playing hockey yet. Like, your sport is gonna grow so fast now that they have you to look up to, which is great. It makes me to see where our sport is now on the biggest stage, garnering the attention it deserves, and there's still those voices out there, that are saying, oh, this won't work, it's gonna lose steam, but it hasn't. And it's okay that those voices are there, because all it does is fuel our fire. These ladies, 19,285 people at a game. Quite frankly, Battle on Bay Street, I had never heard, I covered the Leafs for about 4 years. Through the playoffs, I had never heard Scotiabank Arena that loud in my life. And it was a 0-0 hockey game through 2.5 periods, and it was still louder, okay? So the fans are hungry, they're loving it. Finally, what all of us had to fight so hard to get here, we proved every naysayer wrong. There is and was an appetite for all of this, and there still is, and I hope that everybody continues to push and support women in sport. It's very important for us women to be the leaders in all of that. But all this came to be, I'm standing here in front of you because, I didn't quit, we didn't quit. A large part of it had to do with the language that was used by my mom, my dad, my baba, my Grammy, my aunts, my uncles, my coaches. And the fact that, they made the space that all of us were in so inclusive. So just know that if you're sitting here with a daughter, or you have a niece, or anybody, the words that you use are very important around them. So the why nots, yes you can, why not you, those are big things to be using. It's important to be inclusive. It's important to see these ladies on the national stage as they are right now. The viewership on YouTube is huge. They're making it accessible to everybody all around the world. I can't tell you, the PWHL set metrics, and they're absolutely blowing them all off, because these ladies are such great ambassadors, and being able to see their faces is great, but being able to see the posters that are at the arena of these kids saying thank you to you guys. Emma, I don't know if you guys have a chance ever to read some of them, but they're fantastic. Language matters, representation matters, accessibility matters, it all matters, and it makes the world of a difference. So if we're gonna leave with anything today, let's make sure it's that. I can't wait to hear from the rest of our panelists, so I'm just gonna stop talking and say thank you, all of you, for coming today. Let's get the conversation started.
Who are you wearing today? Do you plan on having any more kids while being a broadcaster? How do you balance being a mom and having a career in sports? Do not answer this. How tired are you of being asked these questions?
Luckily for anybody asking questions, no one's ever asked me that question, so thankfully, but I have seen it happen tenfold in my career.
Exactly the point we're making. And a male athlete would not be asked these questions.
They actually did do it to some of the male athletes, and their responses were hilarious. Westbrook, they asked him who he was wearing and if he could do a twirl, and he absolutely lost it and got the reporter kicked out.
See, there's our point right there. Let's start over in a very women-centered style. Where do you keep your gold medal?
Right now, it is in my office, on my desk, usually in our safe.
What is your second favorite sport?
Soccer.
What is your favorite moment on the ice?
Believe it or not, it's not the Olympics. It is the 2014 Clarkson Cup. Back when the CWHL was a league, before the PWHL started doing things right. I played for the Toronto Furies, and we were a team. We were basically the Mighty Ducks. We were District 5. We were all throwaways. We were like the fourth liners. And we had made the playoffs that year by 1 point, and it was like random that we made it. And so we're like, all right. And I'd been sponsored by McDonald's at the time. So I was a McDonald's athlete, and they gave me a McDonald's gold like credit card. And so I had messaged them. I'm like, listen, my team made the playoffs, and I really want to inspire them. Can I just like abuse this card? And they're like, yeah, it's yours. Like, go ahead. And I'm like, all right. So every game, I was like, all right, if we win this game, and we'll stop at the McDonald's on the way back, and you guys can get anything you want on the dollar menu. And everyone was like, yeah! We won the first game. So we got everything on there. Second game, I was like, all right, McFlurries for everybody. If we win this game, we end up winning it in a shootout. We're like, oh my God, I'm like, this card is magic. So the next game, I was like, screw it. We're going to the final if we win this game. All right, guys, Big Mac meals for all. So we won. We went to the finals, and we were playing against a Boston team. We'd gotten Natalie Spooner back. She was the one Olympian that came back to play for us. Everybody loves Spoons. You can give her a round of applause. She's killing it. And we were playing against Boston, who had a line and a half of American Olympians. And I was like, okay, this is going to take something huge. So I was like, all right, I don't know how we're going to do this, but I think I can convince MLSE to get us all into the Leafs Habs games after this. And we'll try and have Real Sports just feed us free booze. And I just threw it out there. I'm like, and we'll make sure we hit McDonald's at some point in the night.
Usually McDonald's does come after.
I know, and we were 0-0, and the third period ended, and I remember Cheryl Pounder and Rod Black interviewing me, and they're like, yo, what's the thought? I'm like, we got him right where we want him, Rod. Nothing against, the worst team in the league. And he was like, I'm like, oh, pressure's on them, and we came out, and Spooner was cutting down the right side, and she took a shot on net. And the goalie kind of like, it handcuffed her a bit, and it went up and over her. Or no, it wasn't Spooner, it was Brittany Smith. And Spooner was there, and it went up and over, and Spooner swung once and completely missed it. And I was behind her thinking, I'm gonna get this thing. And then she swung again and missed it a second time, and the way it bounced the second time, it went in the net, and we won. So we made the playoffs by 1 point, and McDonald's fueled us to our victory. And that's my favorite win, because they were like, oh, Furies have more fun, because we were known to go into cities and get blown out, and we still would go out and have a good time. However, we made everybody eat their words, and we won the Clarkson Cup that year.
The story I was expecting.
No?
Very awesome. Very awesome. Who do you miss playing against the most?
Not the Lamoureux twins. You know what? I miss playing for Ohio State and playing against the Wisconsins. Wisconsin, Minnesotas, all that stuff. Nice to see that they're all kicking their butt now, but we were, like I said, the underdogs. We were middle of the road, and they were always number one in the nation. And so when you could steal a game off of them, or when they came into our barn, because it's a barn, they were all so miserable, and it would make me so happy just to take it to them.
Do you have a pre-game ritual?
I used to juggle a lot. Yeah, I had a friend, Colleen Sistorix. Yeah, and we would put on a juggling show for our teammates. So we would juggle, and we'd chuck things back and forth and do tricks and stuff. So people would often throw out, suggestions or send us videos on tricks to learn. And then she retired, and I tried to get Erin Ambrose in on it, and she didn't meet my standards, so I just quit juggling. Yeah, but juggling was my thing, and then I retired, and that was it.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for indulging us, and we certainly know you better now. Let's invite some more friends and talented athletes to the conversation.
Cue music.
music. Joining us next, Dr. Sabrina Razik, who brings so much to the table, whose PhD thesis examined the intersections of physical activity, sport, social movement, media, race, gender, class, and culture. She is a professor at the University of Toronto and a Canadian lead at the Centre for Sport and Human Rights, and much, much more. Welcome, Sabrina.
She helped Canada from storming back from a 3-0 deficit in the latest rivalry series with 2 goals in Game 7. She made her Olympic debut in 2022, winning gold. She's a 2-time world champion and is currently playing for the newly founded PWHL as a forward in Toronto. On top of all that, she's got a master's in bioethics. Please welcome Emma Maltais.
Where's our friend Mo? Come on down and join us. Mo is on a mission to foster inclusion for newcomer and at-risk youth through an organization called Hockey for Youth. Mo has a background in corporate philanthropy, community outreach, and volunteering. Mo is super awesome in advocating for women in sport.
Next up is Giselle Bettingham. Giselle is a 2-time black belt, a strong advocate for women learning self-defense, and she is passing along her knowledge to the next gen. She might just kick your butt. Giselle, come on down.
Speaking of next gen, where's Caitlin Kramer, who led Canada to a gold medal in the 2023 IIHF World Women's Under-18 Championship, where she broke multiple records, including the fastest hat trick from the start of the game and the most goals scored by a Canadian in a single tournament. Oh, I'm not done. She is having a banner 2024 and has recently set new records, and probably one of the most humble people I have ever met. And her aunt was my university roommate. I may have stalked her to get her here tonight.
So we're gonna get some good stories out of her, all right.
I stalked Tessa too. Both of them are getting restraining orders. Welcome, Kate.
Up next in our spectacular lineup is Marsha Trudeau-Bomberry. Marsha is amazing and also so down to earth. She is the CEO of Anishinaabe Nation, a community leader, and she played lacrosse at Brock University. She is very passionate about empowering Indigenous youth. Well done, Marsha.
Where is our friend Nastasia Stazik, whose foursome you will want to join? She has played hockey, learning to curl, and won a bronze medal in golf at the 2023 Berlin Special Olympics. The golf course is her happy place, especially if her dad is caddying for her. Welcome, Natasha.
And lastly, but not least, fresh off the groundbreaking success that was the Battle on Bay Street, she's newly graduated and newly signed with the PWHL Toronto, Victoria Bach. Victoria is Emma's teammate and represented Canada in the 2022 Olympics. She was the first Boston University women's ice hockey player to score more than 100 goals, and this will feel like Victoria's second home as she used to practice here at the Milton Sports Center in the early mornings. Welcome home, Victoria.
Thank you, Amanda, for your support tonight. And I hear Victoria still comes and sneaks here on occasion with her dad, so that's pretty awesome. I am astounded by the lineup we have been able to cultivate this evening. When we started this was not where I expected to land, and I am really, really proud of this. And it speaks volume about the change that we've actually been able to make. And when Tessa and I first started talking about this, I'm totally going off script here, this could be trouble. But when we first started talking about this, I really thought this conversation was going to be about women need to come further and what's taking so long and why aren't we there? And you actually had some really interesting thoughts on that, and it absolutely changed my mind. I can't wait to peel back the onion on this very passionate topic for us all. And Tessa, I want to start with you. What does inspiring inclusion mean to you?
I think it's just using your platform to make sure that your voice is being heard and these young ladies can see and hear from these amazing athletes that we have here and people making a difference, and knowing that, you know, you do belong and you do have space, and your voice is worthy of being heard. And I think that the experience that I had growing up, where I was made to feel like I belonged, really kind of inspired that for me. So always feeling included, always feeling supported, and then really be confused when it all of a sudden started to change and I was exposed to certain things that were going on. So I think that, you know, with these ladies doing their thing in the PWHL and Project 8 happening, I think that it's going to start to inspire more and change more. I'm sure you can talk to about, you know, kids and young ladies dropping out of sport a little too early, and hopefully these leagues help curb that and change that and inspire them to, you know, stay in sport, because it's more than just playing a game. It's more than just hanging out with your friends. Sports teach you so much, and for myself, it gave me a safe place to go. It really made you feel like you belong to something, and I think university is the first place where someone realizes how thankful they are that they do know how to play a sport, because you can go play on a sports team, and you do have a belonging, and you do have a set group of friends where you feel comfortable and safe, especially if you're going to a new city or a new space. So yeah, I look forward to diving into those conversations, because I'm sure you have a lot to share.
I do, and sorry, I don't even think I need a mic because I always yell. But what I was going to say is I'm in a heavy bidding war right now for the Victoria Bach jersey. So whoever's trying to outbid me, you're not going to win.
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
And I will say this, there's a couple of reasons why I want the jersey. First of all, you can't find women's jerseys anywhere, which is a trap. I don't even understand why you can't find them anywhere. But number two, so what happened after the game at Scotiabank Arena is we had some of our newcomer teens at the game, and we had passes to meet some of the players. So what we didn't know is we were going to meet only 2 players. One of those players was Victoria. So some of our girls are going up and they've got cards to sign, and so they're getting these cards signed. But one of our girls named Amal, who is Yemeni and Kenyan, right? So from Yemen and Kenya. She's wearing her Hockey for Youth jersey. She turns around and says, "Can you sign my jersey?" the back of the jersey. But not only did she ask for a Victoria Bach autograph, she asked her to draw a heart. Now, I don't know, did it work out? Did the heart work out? It was kind of...
Yeah, it was a little not symmetrical, but...
Her art skills aren't as strong as her hockey skills. But the point is that practice tomorrow, I want to be rocking the Victoria Bach jersey so I can show them all that, you know, we're buddies and that this all comes full circle. And
Stop bidding.
Anyway, stop bidding. Sorry.
This is going to get ruthless.
My allotted time has been... Sorry,
Oh my goodness. Emma, what does inclusion mean to you?
Oh, yeah. I think inclusion for me, kind of same as Tessa was saying, is being able to be yourself and having the opportunities is going to allow everyone the opportunity to be themselves and to showcase what they can bring. I think for me, a lot of part of my personality is really getting out there, I love to dress up, I love to be super feminine, and I love when people ask me about my outfit. So I think like,
Hey, new.
yeah, like celebrating different parts of yourselves, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to dress up even if you're in a sport that's more masculine. It's okay if you don't want to. So I think just having that environment, I think for hockey we're really lucky that I've been surrounded by amazing teammates that have allowed me to be myself, and I think just sending that message that's really important to every team out there, and for leaders, coaches to set the standard and create that environment is super important.
And I'd love to hear from Natasha as a Special Olympian what inclusion means to her, because it is very different for all of us, that word. So Natasha?
So I'm Natasha Stasiak. I have an intellectual disability and I'm autistic, so I feel sometimes left out when I'm on the golf course or even doing another sport. I've been made fun of, but whenever I'm in Special Olympics doing like curling or golf or like other sports, I feel very included. It just depends on being around people who you feel connected to.
And I think sport is a huge connector.
Totally, yeah. The thing is you could probably kick everyone's butt in this room in golf and probably curling, so there's that.
And Sabrina, I'm really curious what your answer to this is. I'm very interested in the work that you have done because it's extensive and extremely interesting.
Yeah, when we come to events like this, I encourage people to look around the room and see who is not here and who is not able to be here, who is not aware of even events like this. And if we look, yes, I am a researcher and a practitioner, and you look at the stats, there's been almost a 20% decline in organized sport for kids. And the number one reason is cost. And we have seen that, the cost of things is not going down. So I think inclusion and inspiring inclusion is for people that are in this room. We can make assumptions for the people in this room do have access and do feel included. So how can the people in this room, the people up here, continue to push to make it more inclusive for others who are not in this room?
And I would just add, so this statistic and where Hockey for Youth Foundation comes in is 71%. This was in the Institute of Canadian Citizenship in 2015. So at that time, Sabrina and I were both working for the Para-Pan Am Games Organizing Committee. But in that report, they said that 71% of new citizens express an interest in hockey, but only 1% would have an opportunity to play. So there's such a huge cavernous gap that exists for newcomers to actually access the sport that we profess to be our national pastime, right? So that's the idea behind what we're doing. And then when you add in the fact that girls will have 1.3 million fewer opportunities to play sport, you can see why, at my organization, why we've taken a leading role in getting newcomer girls from challenging socioeconomic backgrounds into the sport, because they don't have access. And I always say, if you're, for example, a 16-year-old Syrian girl who's just arrived into Canada, you can't really walk into the Milton Sports Center and start playing hockey, right? It's not going to happen, and it's just the nature of the way the sport is designed, the cost being one of the challenges. And so what we've tried to do as an organization is really focus and emphasize after-school programming that's free, it's inclusive, it's fun, it doesn't require parental involvement, there's no transportation, rinks are close by to the schools we work with, and we make it really simple and easy to access.
Mo, watch your watch. It's almost 8 o'clock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna do that.
And thank you for your words of wisdom. Your organization is incredible, amazing work happening there. I want to know, Victoria, what draws you to events like this?
This is honestly incredible. Like, just coming here, obviously I grew up in from Milton, so to be back here, honestly, with listening to all of these amazing stories, and it's seriously so inspiring, and getting the chance to share with all of you. I know me personally, like, I've been through a lot throughout my hockey career, and when talking about inclusion and seeing how far we've came in the game of hockey. I remember coming to rinks as a kid and having to change in janitor locker rooms and little things, people making comments, why is a girl out here, with boys playing hockey, and to see how far we've come in the game of hockey, and to get the chance to share all of our stories, it's super special, and I'm really excited.
Thank you, and that leads me to a really great point, changing locker rooms and having to play with the boys. It's interesting, when I talked to Caitlin, she mentioned that she never has played with the boys. And so is that what's happening in the next gen, and it's pretty cool. Caitlin, do you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, so like that's something that is pretty special about my story is that I never played boys hockey. I tried out, but unfortunately I got cut twice.
They're sorry now. They're sorry now.
So I tried my stab at boys, didn't work out, but just continued with girls. And then being that like you just grow up with all like you just make all these friends and like those sister connections that last forever. And I really feel like I learned a lot from playing the girls' game, learned how to go through adversity. Like, that judgment from the outside doesn't stop just because you don't play boys. Like, I got a lot of criticism at school for just playing a more masculine sport. So just but I could lean on my female teammates because they were going through the same thing. So that was pretty special, and I'm really grateful that I did get the opportunity to play girls, and I think that means a lot of how the game is turning out for the female game. And then you can see just how you can make it if you do play girls hockey, and you don't need to rely on boys, and we can do it ourselves.
And what just happened when you were at the World Juniors?
Yeah, it was U18, but yeah, we got gold last year and then bronze this year. But we had two very dominant teams, and when we were there, we made a lot of history together. And yeah, two dominant teams, and I think those experiences will last with me forever.
And she's being humble, right, Tessa?
Yeah, like what did you and one of your teammates do while you were there?
What do you?
We covered the tournament, so tell everybody.
Well, we broke.
She said go ahead.
Yeah, we broke a few records together. I know this year we got fastest. Oh no, not fastest. We got the most PK goals in a tournament. So yeah.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. I think you crushed the records personally yourself as well, but you're being a little modest about that. But we're so pleased that everybody could be here to join us, and thank you, Caitlin. And Marsha, I'm wondering what inclusion in events like this mean to you?
For me, inclusion, I mean, first of all, just happy to be invited. I'm not sure how your team came up with my name, but was happy to get the invitation to come. I'm a former lacrosse player, but do a lot of work now on the sport administration side, volunteering with Anishinaabe Bagadoweowin, a Anishinaabe lacrosse organization that has goals to get more kids into lacrosse from Anishinaabe communities. For those who are not familiar, Anishinaabe is a group of First Nations people comprised of the Odawa, Ojibwe, Potawatomi tribes with a large footprint in the Great Lakes region. I'm from Wukwamkong on Manitoulin Island, so in the same general area as Tessa there. She says it's
a short school up there too. I spent a lot of time up there.
Yeah, she says it's a short 4 hours. Mine was a short 6.5 hour drive here today. But I'm fortunate that I've had a bit of a career in sport. I don't know if anyone remembers the 2017 North American Indigenous Games that were hosted in the GTA. I was fortunate to have been the chief executive officer for that event. And that event is the largest multi-sport Indigenous youth gathering in North America, and we brought together 4,500 Indigenous youth from across North America to compete in 14 sports. But it wasn't just about sport. It was about cultures. It was about celebrating who we are as Indigenous people in North America, and coming together and celebrating, the differences and the all of the different songs and languages and ceremonies that make who we are as Indigenous people here in North America. And I think in terms of inclusion and inspiring inclusion is that, as a former athlete and sitting among a lot of athletes here and people with a variety of backgrounds, is that knowing that I'm a mother of 3 daughters, and I think it's important that
they see and their friends and peers and all young girls and women see that, you know, I've sat on boards and I've been able to use my voice, you know, in a way that helps to shape decisions. And then, you know, being an administrative leader in a major multi-sport event like that is having that visibility that, you know, you see athletes all the time, you know, when you hear Haley and Cassie talk about not having those role models. And I think it's the same for those important roles that are in the sport system, whether it's a coach, a trainer, a manager, or, you know, an administrative leader of a major multi-sport games, or, you know, in the boardrooms of the PW. So I think that's a big part of it as well, is that, you know, throughout the system of sports, we need to be looking at those various roles, and in broadcasting for that matter.
Amazing. Well said. Giselle, do you get inspired to integrate self-defense and martial arts to advocate for women?
Okay, that's a good question. So when I first entered into martial arts, I was 9, and I didn't enter into it on my own. So I have 2 brothers, and because my older brother was going into it, of course, I had to be his playmate. So I wasn't going in to learn anything, I was going in so that my brother didn't feel lonely. They hand me this weird white looking thing and this belt that I had to figure out how to tie, and then I walk into this room and all I see are these big men, all wearing black belts, and they've all got these big beards, and they're all standing there in the corner with their arms crossed, and I almost peed myself because I was terrified. And it took me about 3 months before I actually stepped out from behind these big men and became a martial artist myself. 30 years later, I'm still teaching and I'm still training, and our youngest students that we have range to about, the youngest would be about 5. And you know, we're very much so about discipline, respect, cardio, fitness, exercise, and when the students make a mistake, they don't refer to an instructor by their last name, I have to give them a punishment. Well, when there's this little 5-year-old sitting there in front of me with these massive pigtails, looking up at me with these big brown eyes, I have to give her push-ups because she didn't call me by my last name. But she learned, and she would always refer as my last name after that. There was one day more recently where I was called up to have a sparring match. It wasn't a contact match, it was just going to be a light sparring match. And out of the whole class of 30 people, nobody wanted to spar me, except her. She was the only one that ran up there, and she's just standing there ready to go. And she's 5. And she's 5.
A piece of you.
She did, and she did, right? Yeah. And so it was I think it was a really good moment for her because I don't want to say I let her win because she did get a couple points in there. So I gave it to her, and she has been the happiest ever. She tells everybody. New students come in, I beat her. All the time, she tells everybody. So I think it's very, very important to have younger girls getting into combat sports. Women are definitely not welcome in combat sports, even today. When I first entered my first tournament, there wasn't even a change room, a closet, a locker, or a bathroom. I had to change in my car. And after the many, many years of me returning, they kind of figured out, okay, she's not going anywhere, so maybe we should give her a bathroom. So I got my own bathroom. So I think it's very, very important. All the young girls here, everybody should know the basics on how to protect yourself. I think it's very important.
Both of you, all 3 of you have mentioned about, you know, on the inclusion topic about, you know, you said take a look at who's not here. Everyone, we need to figure out a way to, you know, make sure that those people are being included. And you were saying, you know, make it more accessible and cost effective. And I feel like, what are some of the things that everyone in this room and everyone on this panel can do to help make it more inclusive, to help fill those spaces? To help make it more accessible? Are there, you know, charities where we can donate hockey gear? Do we drop it off right to you? Like, what are some things that we can do to help make this better and more inclusive, and, you know, find the next Medi-Philip Bland there?
Sure, I can start. And so I did my thesis, my PhD thesis on the Black Girl Hockey Club for So people in the room might maybe follow them on social media. They just started, Soraya Tinker, a former professional player, now color commentator or broadcast analyst, has started a chapter here in Canada. So becoming familiar with topics and also I would say populations that aren't necessarily familiar to the game or has been historically excluded from the game, I think is an important step, and those are entry points. You know, following people on social media or following Black Girl Hockey Club, learning about the organization, and also learning about complex topics related to race and racism is one step. A second step, you know, and part of my research, there were moms that I interviewed who were, you know, their children identified as black female players, and they would describe how the arena was such a lonely and isolated place for them. Because when they would go into the arena, none of the parents would talk to them. So they ended up, you know, this one mother in particular, because of Black Girl Hockey Club, she was inspired to create mother or parents who of black children, of children who play hockey who are black females. And she created that online community, and it was a place of comfort for her to discuss those feelings of isolation. But this is something where people in this room also can take a look at. How are you building that culture within a team? And how are you, you know, noticing people who might not necessarily align with the typical hockey culture, and how you can increase their sense of belonging. So those are two things that I think people can, in this room and beyond, can do right away, is becoming familiar with different populations who are playing the game of hockey, and then also looking at the teams that you play on. And I remember Soraya telling me that she didn't have a teammate or a crew of friends until she played, and until very much later in her life.
Very late, yeah. Her and Sarah Nurse talk about the first time they saw each other at Sarah Nurse was at under 22s and she was at U18s, and they were walking on opposite sides of the street, and they locked eyes and they're like, oh my gosh, someone that looks like me.
Right, and so
Sarah's dad was like, there was another black person, let's go talk to him, they're playing hockey.
Exactly.
That was their interview.
Well, and that's you know, and you look at what you get from sport, and the biggest, you know, why people stay in sport is those social connections.
Totally.
So I think too, as a teammate, as parents, as community members, on boards, all of those places are opportunities to invite and also ensure that that sense of belonging is there.
I'd like to know from Natasha how she would be more welcomed at the golf course.
I guess more women that would be playing. Sometimes when I try to book a tee time, I would be playing in the morning with 3 men sometimes, and I would be very lonely. Sometimes I would even cancel my tee time. Sorry, Mom, but that's the truth. And she knows that. Maybe more accessibility for people who have disabilities too. Like I've played with a person in a wheelchair before too. They're called solo riders, so they would be able to stand with a cart and they still be able to hit a golf ball. I don't see that many courses have that in around Halton where I play, so it'd be more accessible for them. So there would be more people with disabilities who'd be able to play golf.
Good answer, thanks.
So, I was just going to jump in to say that delivery models are key. What Sabrina's talking about, Natasha's talking about a delivery model. So, where we stand at Hockey for Youth Foundation is our delivery model is very simple, right? It's an after-school program. So, the girls in our program don't have to worry about, I have to lug my hockey bag from home to school. All the gear is in the school. They literally grab their bag, they walk to the rink, they get on the ice for an hour, they come back, we'll have a snack, you know, they can stick around if they want to do homework. The delivery model is different. And the girls in our program coming from all sorts of different backgrounds, at this point we've worked with over 700 kids who are representing 41 different countries of origin. We even have girls who were born and raised in Canada but are coming from difficult backgrounds. We've got a program in Ottawa that's targeted at girls who have neurodivergence. That program runs during the school day. So the access points to hockey are more than even minor hockey. I'll tell you a quick story. So we had 20 of our kids at NHL All-Star. We did something with Rogers. They've come on board as a partner. We're partnered with Scotiabank, the NHL. But the interesting thing is when you would go up to our kids and ask them who their favorite player was, somebody might expect them to say Austin Matthews. But all of the girls, if you ask them, they would say Sarah Nurse. Now, not all of the girls in our program are Black. Not all of them, come from a similar background, but they know who Sarah Nurse is, right? They're starting to get to know Victoria and Emma. The key here is when you see someone who looks like you or is from your background, gender-wise, you start to build those connections. And so for us as an organization, we're creating an on-ramp where these kids would not have access to organized minor hockey. So we're just using a different delivery model. We're making it easy, just like Natasha's talking about. Make it easy for young women to get into sport. Golf is another one that has a serious problem with access, right? So that's what we're doing in our organization.
I think just by the sheer nature of some sports as well, there are the financial, the cost barriers. Coming from the area that I come from, even just walking into this facility, it's not just cost in terms of equipment, it's cost in terms of having access to, I see this beautiful facility, I see, how big it is, and we don't have anything like that in the north. I mean, I don't even know if we have anything like that like this in Sudbury. I mean,
We only have a two-acre complex, countryside, and it was tacked on after.
So, I mean, that's one aspect of it, and had a really great conversation with Victoria beforehand about, as well as when we talk about access, even coaching, having access to coaches, and sometimes you have a well-intentioned volunteering parent, but they don't necessarily have the background in that sport, and that's another challenge, I think, in terms of coming from more of a remote, rural type of, not remote, but I think I would say a rural area. And I think the biggest thing as well is, from another perspective as well, is just opening your heart and mind to making sure that sport and active living pursuits are kept fun. I was a part of a federal, provincial, territorial Sport Canada work group for women and girls in sport for a couple of years, a representative from the Aboriginal Sports Circle, and national Indigenous organization that advocates and works for Indigenous sport. And one of the alarming stats, and I have, as I mentioned, 3 daughters. My oldest daughter is 12, turning 13, plays hockey, plays rep girls field lacrosse. We drive down to Aurelia, so that's our closest field lacrosse association. So we play, we have all 3 girls playing lacrosse there. But the big thing is that one of the most alarming stats that I think from those 2 years was learning that when girls start to hit puberty at 13, 14, 15 is when they start leaving organized sport. And I think the biggest thing for me is making sure that those girls continue to have fun. They're making those connections, those social connections, and they're having fun, bottom line.
And I think that speaks across all realms of sport, is that sometimes it gets taken way more seriously than it should, and the fun gets lost in that, and that's when girls are going to stick around, because it's fun, it's active, and there's a whole other topic of conversation that we could have about staying active and being healthy as well, and we'll maybe uncover that some other time. But our society needs to be more active, and sports is one way to be doing that. You can see that we have a lot of hockey players here today, and there's actually 3 generations of hockey players. Tessa being at the top, and hold on.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
I said at
I'm
the
what they
top.
call an old dog. I'm an old dog now. I'm okay with it.
And we have Emma and Victoria and Caitlin up and coming. Tessa, what kind of advice do you have?
It's funny because as soon as the PWHL was announced that it was going to be launching, my husband was like, "Oh, are you going to make the comeback?" And I was like, "Are you nuts? No chance." When I retired back in 2013, 2014, I covered the 2015 Women's World Championship in Kamloops. And Carla McLeod, my D partner, was my analyst, and we were watching warm-ups and the first period happened and we were making clips or whatever, and our producer came in our ear and he's like, "So, what'd you guys think?" And I was like, "I am so happy I'm retired." They are fast, and man, like there's no way I don't even think I could keep up out there, but having all that happen made me reflect on, you know, my career and maybe moments that you kind of get lost in, especially when they're high, intense moments. You guys want it so bad, right? Is there nothing you want any more than, well, obviously a PWHL championship right now, but the Olympic Games, that was the be all and end all, and you've trained your whole life, and this is something that you've wanted your whole life. You know, it gets to the point where I remember after I got cut in 2006 and I had to go back home to Sudbury. I got cut 2 days before Christmas, by the way, so I returned home on the 23rd. And I went to go grab a drink out of the fridge, and I saw my parents had like 4 or 5 bottles of champagne in there that likely weren't going to get popped. And I knew what they were for, and in that moment, I just started crying, and it had nothing to do with being cut, and everything to do with feeling like I let down every single person that had supported me in that moment. And if all of those people knew I was crying for that reason, each and every single one of them would have picked me back up and dusted me back off and told me there was no way I disappointed them, like the effort was there. And I think that that's what all of you need to realize, is that as athletes, it is natural for us to carry a burden that is not ours. You're doing this for yourself. Those people are supporting you because they love you and they want you to do well. They don't feel like you owe them anything. So when you're in it, it's for you, and those people are supporting you because they love you. With that said, the biggest thing I learned was to park it. And parking it is really hard, and it's a trained thing that you learn to do, and it's easier said than done. But there are moments that are gonna happen in your career where you feel like you're having a bad game, or you made a bad play and you're having a real hard time letting it go. You need to just park it and move on. Throw that thing away. We had an amazing sports psych by the name of Peter Jensen. And he had preached this all throughout my career, essentially. And in 2010, I came cutting around the net with the puck. And Erica Lawler, she was this short, fast, little annoying American player that she's now my friend, but back then, man, I just wanted to pound her. And she came behind me and she pickpocketed me. And thank God we had Shannon Zabados in net, the best hockey player in the world. Shannon made a save, a wicked save. And this is in the Olympic final, this happened, okay? I remember the play clear as day, unfortunately. And I skated to the bench and I slammed my stick, I dropped an F-bomb, and I just sat there really mad. And Kim St. Pierre, who quite arguably could have been starting that game, co-best goaltender in the world at that moment, she had found out the night before the gold medal game that she wasn't going to be playing. She was actually my roommate, and I saw what she had gone through, and it was awful because she felt like it was her. She knew she was retiring after that year. Rightfully so, we would have won with either of them, regardless. She wasn't in the net. It was a sucky moment for her. She was on the bench. And she put her hand on my back, and I turned around, and she was like, "Hey, what happened?" And I'm like, "She pickpocketed me, she got a chance." She's like, "Yeah, but," and she pointed up to the scoreboard, she's like, "Did she score?" And in that moment, I'm like, oh, nothing happened. In the grand scheme of things, nothing happened there. And I was like, no. And she was like, so park it, look around. There's 1 million people that are watching this game right now and a ton in this rink that would pay a lot of money to trade spaces with you. So enjoy it. And I was like, that's what I'm gonna do from here on out. And I carried that with me through the rest of my career up until I retired. And I can honestly say the last day that I got cut in 2013, I didn't cry. I was just so happy to be able to have that opportunity to try. I also knew that I was going home to a job that I loved. However, I had that opportunity to try and to play, and I enjoyed every minute of it, and I knew that I gave it my all in every moment that I had. So really, there was nothing left for me to do and nothing that I could do to change. So it's that. Don't let any moment or any situation be too heavy, because it is all so minute, and to carry that baggage around with you is such a waste of time. So you guys are good. You're there for a reason, so play for that reason.
Anybody else have some profound advice here? Anybody want to follow Tessa's?
I feel like no, Serena. I feel like you are so incredibly knowledgeable. And I love talking with you, and I love when you speak on things. So I feel like there's a lot of information that you want to and could and should share with all these people here. So if you could just give us like your top 10.
Well, you know, I'm really excited to come to these events. We're exploding when it comes to women in sport. So it's a super exciting time, and I think a lot of people up here too and in the room have been trailblazing and continuing to fight for their girls to play and fight for, you know, carving out spaces. So I think that we have to keep our foot on the gas with this. And that is one thing that I would say. There's a lot of things I could say. That's the first thing I would say is keep our foot on the gas. And the second thing that I would say too is, and I think it was Tessa that you said it about language and about our language when it comes to women in sport and to young girls in sport. And you know, women, and historically, sports were made for boys and men. So women are still seen as guests in this space. So our body is a site of resistance when we step onto the field, the court, everything. So knowing that the labor of women, additionally as players, they're automatically going to be political. And that's not something that, you know, as hockey players that you necessarily want or feel like you should do. But the fact is, you're in the body identifying as a woman, you are a site of resistance. So the labor needs to be spread to all the men and the boys as well. So for a feminist movement, for women in sport, we need the men, we need the boys.
Ooh, male allyship.
I would just say that the allyship has to be there, like 100%.
Mo, you're the best example. Did you get the jersey? You're the best example of this, and I love that you're here. And I remember you saying, I don't know why I'm on this panel, and this is the reason why, Mo. This is why we need you. This is why we love you, man.
Well, first of all, thank you. And it's an honor to be on this panel, but we need more allyship. So, quick story that I can tell you is, we had 100 guys in Ottawa. When was this, Dan? How long ago? 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks? It was before All-Star. We went to Ottawa because 100 guys wanted to play hockey outdoors. The city of Ottawa is a partner of ours, so they wanted to do a fundraiser for us, right? So 100 guys, men, are out there playing hockey, and they know that we've got 4 programs for girls, a lot of them newcomers to the country. These guys came out there and played hockey and raised, over $10,000 for our charity. And the outcome of that is this. So this is a text message from Ruba, who's from Lebanon, who's in Ottawa. I sometimes get emotional, so I apologize. I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but basically what she says here, I just promised myself to become really good at hockey and a famous player. I promised to give it my all and try my hardest, especially now in this period. I think I'm more ready than I've ever been. For that to happen, I need a lot of practice. Looking around, I've found that you are the only person I could talk to about that, and also ask for a lifetime wish, which is to get me more ice time alone so that I could do my best, practice, and not get, I don't know what she wrote there, not get offended, it's probably spell checked, and fall and not get embarrassed. This would be a lifetime favor that I owe you. The gist in that message is she wants to play. She's playing once a week right now for an hour in an after-school program, and so one of the things we've talked about is, hey, why don't we see if we can get you in touch with the Lebanese women's team? They just happen to be based out of Ottawa and Montreal. So that's her pathway, right? We're just the conduit. We're just trying to help build that pathway. At the end of the day, this is one text message that could lead to a lifetime of achievement for her, right? And then you think about the translation of what that happens in life, later on in life. If she decides she wants to have kids, and if she has a daughter, what do you think that story is going to be like? So that's what I see as my role. I'm just an ally. I'm just trying to do the job in the community and help as many girls get on the ice. And that's kind of the end of it.
And can I add to that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I think for allyship too, I think it can be simple. Like I think right now with the PWHL, like throw it on, like watch it. I think also like just like Tessa was talking about how her dad was trying to find ways to find female role models. Like I was at your Clarkson Cup game. Tessa.
You were?
I was.
What a game.
I was. What a game. I remember I watched the 2014. I had broken my hand and I got to miss school and I was sitting in my basement alone. I can remember watching the game. And it was one of my first injuries, so I was so upset, but that brought me so much joy. And my dad saw that and he was looking like, where else are these women playing? And that's when I went to the Clarkson Cup final. I remember Natalie scoring, and I remember Natalie's interview, and I actually took a selfie with Natalie like in the background when she was taking her interview, and I posted it, and I deleted it, of course, because now I'm like her teammate. But
and line mate.
and Lainey, yeah. So, but it just shows you like how little acts can go such a long way in terms of like if my dad didn't take me to that Clarkson Cup game, I wouldn't have been obsessed with Natalie as much as I was, and then now I look up to her every single day at my job. So it just kind of shows you that.
And I think the beautiful thing about women's sport in comparison to men's is that for whatever reason, I guess I understand why, but women's hockey in particular, I guess you could throw softball and mix and even basketball, but was seen as a predominantly gay sport. So it's already been marginalized. And it felt like when I came up playing with Team Canada, I was actually made fun of a little bit because I wore mascara and dressed up to go to the games. And not to say that everyone else didn't. There was like a couple more, but I was more out there. And I think that because that's the way women's sports was seen, and then coming in as a straight person just enjoying the game, I felt like we were all already so inclusive, if that makes sense. Not to say that like I don't think was, I actually played with 2 Indigenous people in my entire career, which is, 3, sorry, and 2 Black people. So that's not a lot for when I came up. But what I see now is a lot more, which is great, which is inspiring to know that, thank goodness. But I feel like because that, I feel like women's sports is it can be such a draw for people to find a safe place to identify with. Because I'll tell you this, walking into a female sports locker room is a lot safer place for someone who's marginalized than in a men's locker room right now. And so kudos to us for doing that, and I hope that we continue to do that as well and lead the example in that. But for turning the game on, my son knows nothing but women's hockey. So when World Juniors came around at Christmas time, I was like, okay, everybody, Team Canada's playing. Get your jersey on, come and watch the game. And my son was actually upset. He was like, well, why is it boys? And I was like, well, there's a boys Canada team too. And he's like, well, where are the girls? And I'm like, well, they're not playing right now, they're playing in April. So you can make an impact like that on your kids and just make it something that is, Hockey Night in Canada is every Saturday, yeah, but the women play, every Sunday, they play Tuesday, they're going all the time. So just to have that beyond, whether it's in the background casually or not, you're gonna create a fan. Because just like women can be a sport of men's hockey, vice versa as equally as possible. So good point, Emma.
Awesome. Mayor Krantz just gave me the signal. He says he doesn't need a mic, which doesn't surprise me at all, but Mayor Krantz.
Well, first of all, thanks very much, Kate. And again, I like Mo. I don't need the mic. First of all, I find it very enlightening and very informative there. Mo, I think you had mentioned there before about the Pan Am Games. And of course, an individual like myself had my chin stuck out there a long, long time ago to invite the Pan Am Games here in Milton. And of course, as you're probably well aware, that was the very first one in Canada, the Velodrome. And I just wonder, Madam Chair, through you to Mo, what, or anybody else, what that may mean to the cycling sport. And of course, there's going to be about 40 countries here in about 2 weeks' time. And a lot of you are probably aware of that. So we're on the international stage here as well. So a little plug for the velodrome. But the point that I want to make, and again, I think it was Mo that you said, we know who's here, but who's not here. And affordability plays into it. And again, I'm going to flip it over to Christina and/or Samira. We do have a fund set up to assist individuals that's in any kind of sports there. So I'm not sure, Christina, you or Samira want to just maybe touch on that. I think, Samira, you might sit on that committee that hands out some of those funds.
Mayor Krantz is known for throwing it to his team, so they should be prepared for this.
And they are.
That is true. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. That is correct. I sit on the Community Fund Committee, and we are proud to share that more than half of the applications that come through the Community Fund are sports groups, and mostly minor leagues, mostly young girls groups, mostly young boys groups. And Milton prides itself in providing those funds to this community in whichever way we can to promote their sport, to help with their equipment. Sometimes it's basketballs, sometimes it's hockey sticks, but we do whatever we can. And thank you so much, Katie, for. I was just looking around and you said, we've been talking about who's not here. In front of me in the panel, I see everybody here. So thank you for this wonderful panel that I see a lot of good representation.
Okay, the mic's been passed to me. Hi everyone, I'm Christina. I am not an athlete, but I do want to touch on, Tessa, when you were talking about, parking it. There's so many parts of sport that just translate into everyday life, and especially being a female in politics, which also is traditionally a male-dominated field, we're trying to change that as well. And Kate, you asked the mayor about more representation on council. Well, you need more women to run in order to vote for them in a democracy, right? So it's important, and we've had role models as well that we've looked up to, I'm sure my colleague Samira has as well, to see that representation, to know it can be done and done in a good way to serve our communities. And I take a lot of that and translate it into the work that I have to do, and I'm sure other women who are in the field do the same. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
And there was a question to Mo.
Well, look, first of all, the Pan Am Games was 8 years ago, and we know about the velodrome, and I think the point you're making, Mayor Krantz, and by the way, it was Sabrina who talked about who's not in the room, but the point is there are so many people that want to get into the room, right? One of the things that we say at our charity is the only barrier should be the boards, because that really is the only barrier that should exist for hockey in particular, right? But the financial barriers, and I'm glad that the community, you guys are doing things to provide funding, because that's one barrier. Transportation is another barrier. Culture is another barrier. Gender is another barrier. By the way, the fact that Emma said that this is her job is so heartwarming to hear. Because it's about damn time. Like, honestly, that you say that hockey is your job. But my point is we need to do more. We need to invest more in community organizations. Like the Halton Women's Center, the ones that are doing the work in the community, we're actually making a difference directly in people's lives, right? Whether it's schools or the Women's Center or Black Girl Hockey Club or Hockey for Youth Foundation, we're making a difference in the community, right? And that's the key, is the more that we think about the investment in community, the more you get involved with grassroots organizations, the more things change, right? Otherwise, we're not going to see change. There's constantly got to be change and innovation and systems delivery models, right? In sport and outside of sport. So I think Milton is an amazing, maybe I should tell my wife we should move here. Great spot.
Talk to Mayor Krantz, he'll get you in, no problem.
Well,
We're in old Toronto.
I said it many, many times. There's two types of people in this world.
I know.
Those of us that are Meltonians, or those of them who wish they were, that's the only.
That's right.
You know, when you talk about that being your job, I've seen some pretty moving signs being shown at these games, and one of them I'm going to quote: "If I'd known it'd be a professional league, I wouldn't have stopped playing." So you have paved the way for other young women like Caitlin, who now has something to aspire to make it her job, and it's just been unbelievable the uptake that we have seen. And one of the things that I did want to touch on, I'm just watching time because we are going to throw it back to the audience for some questions. So just conscious of time here, but I want to talk a little bit about the supportive family through sport and mentors through sport as well, because I think that's a huge component of that. Does anybody want to talk about that? I know Natasha has her dad caddying for her.
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I'll jump
Yeah.
in. As I said, back in I think 2013, we moved from Brantford to Manitoulin in Northern Ontario. I took on the job with the North American Indigenous Games in 2016, and at the time we had 2 young daughters. At the time they would have been 2 and 5. And I know that I couldn't have done that job coming down to Toronto every week, leaving on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, and then going home on a Thursday night or a Friday afternoon, unless my husband was willing to be a single parent for a year during the week. So I think that's absolutely crucial to be able to take on an administrative leadership role like that, for one, but for the other is just putting the bit of a prompt in me to even put my name forward to be considered for that role in the first place, because he's the one that made that suggestion. So I wouldn't have been able to do that without that, on the one hand. And I did want to briefly touch on, I think, something that is important as well, was I think the mental health aspect to sport, and she mentioned it about being in that game-like situation. And then you learn about that throughout sport, obviously, but I also volunteer coach at home with my daughter's hockey team. And in taking, the coaching certification courses, you learn about, the 24-hour rule. And even with the political side of things, I am on council at home, in addition to my role within a First Nations political organization as CEO. And you get that, those chirps and those things and the negativity on social media, and you need that mental toughness to be able to not respond, or to take the time to, think about it, or to not have that knee-jerk reaction. And a lot of that does come from sport. You build that in practice and in the resilience you have to, go back there day after day, and even on the tough days, or the tough plays, you're still going back and giving it you're showing up even.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to touch on the supportive family and mentors?
I can talk on this one. I think for me, I kind of had a similar story with my dad and getting into hockey as Tessa, but I started playing hockey pretty late when I was like 7 years old. And the reason I wanted to start playing hockey was after watching the Olympics in 2002. And I still remember this day like yesterday. I turned to my dad, he was sitting there, he was a hockey player. He was a pretty good player growing up, and I turned to him and I said, I want to play hockey. Like, I want to be just like these girls. I want to play on Team Canada one day. And he kind of just looked at me and he's like, no, like, you're not playing hockey. And I just remember I was like, I want to play on Team Canada. I want to be just like these girls. And now to this day, like, after a game that we played at Scotiabank Arena, my dad came up to me. It was a pretty emotional moment, and he's like, wow, you guys did it. And we kind of hugged, and that's honestly going to stick with me forever. He's like, never would I have thought that my girl would be playing professional hockey. And for me, like, that's just so special. Like, families meant everything to me, and just seeing the sacrifice that your family puts in to help you get to where you are, so much sacrifice, and so thankful for that. But also from a team perspective too, I really think that, once hockey's said and done, something you'll always remember is the memories and the friendships that you make, and your teammates truly do become your family. They're the people that you'll remember for the rest of your lives, and I still keep in touch with teammates that I played with when I first started hockey. So I think family is such an important part in sport and life, and I'm just really thankful for my family.
we'll end on one more question about finding balance. And I think this is something that isn't easy to do, but how do you find balance perfecting your craft, school, other jobs? What's the tricks to finding balance? Because I need to know those. Oh. Are there no tricks?
Are we all bad at doing that? I think we all are.
From a cultural perspective, in Anishinaabe culture, we have something where you recognize mind, body, spirit, or the medicine wheel, where you know that there's your physical being, your mental being, your spiritual, and then your emotional, and you got to make sure there's balance. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a medicine wheel, but it's a circle with a horizontal and then a vertical line, and it's making sure that all those aspects of your being are being acknowledged, and you're nurturing those aspects. So I think for me, it's just making sure that spiritually, culturally, you're recognizing that, your emotional well-being. I think that's obvious. Physical, obviously, what you put into your body, eating well, staying active, drinking lots of water and sometimes coffee to keep going. But it's just recognizing all of those centers and trying to, make sure that you're acknowledging and respecting those.
There's so much we can learn from the Indigenous ways as we move towards reconciliation, and thank you for sharing that. I've been part of Grandmother's Voice, who I know has some participants here tonight, and it's been a real journey, and I know that I had a grandmother say to me, "Your water flows with my water," and that statement will always stick with me because it is so true. We come together to create one in the Indigenous. So for sharing that. And I just...
Not feeling to lean on your family and friends. I've definitely taken advantage of having such great teammates. For example, when we did win bronze this past Worlds, it was obviously hard because we really wanted to bring home that gold, but I remember right after the semifinals, I called up my old teammate Emma Pice, who was my teammate in 2023 Worlds. And I called her crying, and she just said, "Listen, Kramer, it's gonna be okay. Get up. You'll just bring it tomorrow and bring home the bronze. That's still an unbelievable thing." So, just really being open. Don't feel the need to hide your emotions. Mental health is a very real thing, and isn't something that needs to be dealt with by yourself.
Excellent. What I'm truly feeling from tonight is this is just the tip of the iceberg. I feel like this could have been a whole day symposium, and maybe that's just the brainchild for our next event. Before we throw it to the audience, anybody have any other profound words that they want to share? We covered it all. Okay. Hand up if you have a question. Oh.
Over there, she was quick.
So quick. Come on up. Come on up. Snacks, bring your snacks. What's she on? We're gonna share. Oh, it's Emma Maltais. Oh, Maltais. Come on. I want to ask you a question.
I want to know what players on Team Canada when they have good habits. I want to know what habits they have to be so successful.
That is the best question we've had all night. What's your name? Kinley. What's your last name?
Knowles.
Knowles, and where do you play?
I play on the United Barracudas.
The Barracudas. Burlington Barracudas?
Yes, that's right.
Did you go to Emma's hockey school by chance?
Oh.
No? It's okay. We'll get you.
She came to my dad's hockey school.
She went to your dad's hockey. So your dad is the reason why she made Team Canada? Is that what we're going to tell everybody? I heard your dad was her coach when she was younger.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she told me about it before. She said he was very inspirational, so you're lucky you got a really good dad. I think what makes Team Canada players so successful is that they focused on rest just as much as they focused on working hard. And there's a difference between working really hard and working really smart, and they're good at working hard and smart at the same time. So they're not out doing a million things at once. They really hone in on maybe something that they're not good at and working on it that day, and then the next day picking something that they are really good at and fine-tuning it. What about you? What are you really good at? You have a wrist shot?
Probably my slap shot.
Your slap shot? Like a flapper? Are you defense?
Sometimes and sometimes I'm left wing.
Oh, you rotate around. You're left wing?
Yeah.
All right, so left wing with a hard slap shot. Sounds like maybe you can work on your snapshot, right? Fix that, get that going really good, like Emma. And then throwing the body around, because there's body checking now. Did you know that? So you gotta lift a little bit of weights, right? Not yet, you're not old enough. How old are you? 9? You 9, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I think she's going good. Emma, what do you think?
Yep, I think so. So keep it up. Keep it up.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about.
Awesome. Look at the jersey too.
That is so cool.
That's a moment.
Like, I just watched that
That's
and I was
a moment.
like, wow.
Yeah, that was a moment. Any other excellent questions coming from the crowd?
Someone else got their hand up.
Okay, coming back into the crowd.
Hi, I was just wondering, as I sat here, there's so many challenges right now, but what about women after 50 and opportunities, because we're trying to break the ageism barriers, right? And as I sat here, I thought about something I saw a few years ago, which was a men's older group playing hockey. This was in Toronto, and it struck with me. There's nothing for women, and it's not encouraged after 50.
There actually is nearby a former teammate of mine, an Ohio State Buckeye, Jenna, what's her married name? Harrigan. No, that's her real name. That's her. Sorry, that's her name when I met her. Her real. That is her real name. I'm having a brain fart right now. Jenna Head. Jenna Head is her now married name. She does run Learn to Play for ladies of any age that want to get involved. There's also a hockey league that Sammy Joe plays in. Oh, it's nearby. It's like Mississauga area. The Honey Badgers are what they're called. Google Honey Badgers, you'll find the league. But anyways, I highly suggest looking into Jana Head, or is it Jana Harrigan Hockey School? Is that what it's called? Harrigan Hockey School. There you go. I'm glad she kept the name. Way to go, Jana.
And you know,
thank you for helping me out with that.
A shout out to my friend Carrie, who's trying to get me to come out to hockey.
Do it.
So there is a league for women,
Nice.
and you can be beginners. So find Carrie, she's in the back, she'll get you registered so I don't have to.
There are problems in municipalities as well. I'm not talking about Milton, but I know because on Fridays after our newcomer girls play, who do you think's on the ice at 4 o'clock on a Friday?
Old
After
dudes.
us.
Old dudes.
Old dudes, right? That are literally the first week I wasn't there, but there was some chaos. Like one of the guys jumped on the ice to try and get our girls off the ice. So there are challenges around that. There are municipal challenges in Montreal. We've had problems there. So I think programs like this are so important. Like
Absolutely.
The ice allocation policy also has to allow for and encourage programs like what you're talking about that exist, right?
Yeah.
You gotta change that.
I think also you need the confidence yourself. In martial arts anyways, when parents put their kids into it, the kids badger the parents to the point where now the parents are in it. So I really think that when you're 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and you're just experiencing what you want to do, I think that once you get older, you think that you can't do it and you may feel a little embarrassed, like, oh, I'm 50 and I'm going to be, going into this dojo and I'm going to have to run. You can do it. People can do it. You can build yourself up to it. I can't count the amount of times that I've been thrown up on, had to clean puke off of my gi because the student has, are you feeling okay? Do you need to step up? No, I'm fine. And then they just throw up all over you. So I think that yourselves having the confidence to put yourselves into something like that, I think is huge as well.
Absolutely. I just want to also, just with the municipality here too, it is something that I think doing an audit of the arenas and the allocation of ice time by gender is something that I think that you can ask as well, since you do hold the purse strings and systemically make the change to make it more equitable. It's just something that I would encourage every municipality to do when it comes to ice time.
And further on that too, we had a Zoom call to kind of get to know each other and talk about our ideas, and Sabrina talked about if you want people to watch the BWHL, put it on at the same time, not while dinner's being cooked, not while you're commuting. Play it at 8 o'clock, play it at 7 o'clock. And I love that, because why are we doing it at 5 o'clock during rush hour and dinner time and getting kids to where they need to be? Why can't it be at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a rationale too that I think that we've used for so long, is that more people watch men's game. Well, if you have 10 cameras, you have $1 million marketing budget, you have it at prime time, of course more people are going to watch. So that's one thing too, that it's an argument that I will never, ever, ever accept, because they need to be equally supported in order for us to enjoy and watch the games as well in an accessible way.
The Gist made a, do you follow The Gist? Which is
absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so they made a post today. Women's sports is a business. Just like any business, if women's sports receives proper investment, they will grow. And based on how much they've grown without proper investment, we know they'll grow fast if handled like the high growth opportunities they are. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
And like, how do you argue that?
Like, didn't Aaliyah Edwards just sign a nil deal with Adidas?
Yeah.
So she plays, she's Canadian, but she plays basketball at, she at UConn, right?
Yeah, she's at a UConn. Yep. And so that's the thing.
That's a good example, right? That
Right.
when you got to sign with Adidas too. We'll talk about that after.
Can you read that quote one more time, Tessa? Sorry, you put your phone away, but I want to end on that.
We had a couple.
We have more questions? Oh.
We have one more right here, yeah?
Okay, one more, coming.
I was just, I'm an emerging sport professional, and I was just wondering if you have any advice for anyone after they retire from their sport, or for me who kind of stopped playing and is looking more into the business side of things.
Good question too.
Go to graduate.
You're not retired. I'm retired. What was your sport, sorry? Basketball? Wicked. It was your first love, you fell in love with it the second you started playing? I get that. And so your whole life, your first love, everything was basketball. That's what you dumped your whole heart, your everything into? Right. And like, that's your first major breakup, right? And it sucks. I get that, and it's terrifying and it's scary. And actually, professional athletes, actually the NHLPA, I should say, has a program in place to help the players that are retiring, because you do fall into a little bit of depression. And I'm sure you can talk about this, Emma, a little bit. There is the post-Olympic depression. I remember someone told me about it, like, beware, be careful, there's the post-Olympic depression. And I don't want to say I kind of scoffed at or laughed at it, because depression does run in my family, but I was kind of like, nah man, whatever, I'm riding this high. Like, I worked so hard for this, I'm gonna enjoy this thing till the end of time. And it hit me. And it's because you hit that peak, you had your schedule made out for every day, you know what you were eating, you know what you were training, you know what you were sleeping, all that stuff was set up for you, you had a plan and a place to go. And then all of a sudden that's gone and taken away, right? It's really weird. I was lucky enough that I fell into, I was pushed into my career while I was playing, and I was kind of having an affair on hockey with broadcasting. This is going into a strange place, however.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. I fell in love with broadcasting, and it was really confusing to me that I liked something just as much as I liked hockey. So I think for you, it's you said business is your passion? Your next passion?
Sport business.
Sport business, perfect. Yeah, reach out to the PWHL. They're looking for WNBA. We want a Canadian team here. Maybe there's a board down there. Project 8. I know Diana Matheson very well. She's a good friend of mine, Natalie Cook. I mean, there's a ton of people here that you should toss your number out to, and I'm sure we can get you in somewhere. No problem. Good for you for coming here today. But that's my thing, is get yourself right back out there and rub elbows with.
Yeah, and I just want to say one more thing too for the, the hash. I did a paper on LeBron James when a commentator said that he should just shut up and dribble. And then he created the hashtag more than an athlete. And more than an athlete, he actually went to 8 different countries and did workshops on trying to encourage athletes to be, and not to be, to showcase their multidimensionality. And I think that that's what's important for players right now. And I'm sure the players, the current players, have way more interest and skills that are not, maybe on the forefront that we see, but to also be able to cultivate that alongside your sport, because there is opportunity to do that. Yes, you have schedules, yes, you have all that, but you had that love affair. But I think that that's important, an important message too, is that we are more than athletes, and you have that passion for business, and I'm sure you have those skills already too. So thank you for saying that, and I just want to encourage everyone here to recognize and humanize athletes more than just what they can do on the ice, because they bring so much more, they are so much more, and they can do so much more too. So it shouldn't be a shock when they pivot into another area of their life that they have been also cultivating throughout their athletic career.
And Erin Ambrose actually wrote a piece on Hockey Canada. It's called In Her Own Words, if you go In Her Own Words by Erin Ambrose, about the struggles she had finding her self-worth outside of being an athlete. She really needed to come to terms with who she was without hockey in order to be the best hockey player she could be. It's a pretty inspiring piece, just if anybody wants to Google and look it up. It's a great read.
Yeah, I also think, touching on that too, parents, encourage your young athlete to have different interests outside of their sport. That's like the number one thing. I know it was probably because there was no career in hockey at the time, where my mom in particular was encouraging me to have different interests, like this isn't gonna last forever type of thing, but it actually instilled other passions in my life that I can turn to when hockey's not going well. So then when hockey's not going well, I'm not just in shreds. Like I have other things to turn to, and it gives you something else to look forward to. I'm taking a French class right now because why not? At U of T, it's like that's it's something that's on my dad's side. I want to do that. So I don't think you should ever shy away from other interests, like you said, even if you are predominantly an athlete too.
And I would say, just first of all, Erin's the best. If you go to her Instagram, she skated with her kids during NHL All-Star Week. Dance off on the ice. They weren't even doing hockey drills at that point. It was just a dance. It was a straight dance off. She got moves. But what I was going to say is, from an athlete perspective, the way that I see it as an organization, and we have a concrete example that I presented to the Vancouver Canucks today, because they're a funder of ours. I told them about our coordinator. So her name's Sophie Garreau. She was a University of Ottawa GG's player. She was working for me part-time in Ottawa. And I was visiting for the day and having meetings and stuff. And I said, what are you doing after you graduate in April? And she goes, well, I'm gonna go back to London, Ontario. I'm gonna spend some time with my mom. I'm gonna teach. She's Franco-Ontarian, so she had a teaching job lined up. And then she said she wanted to move out to BC, specifically to Kelowna. And I then said, well, why don't you move to Vancouver? Why don't we talk about you moving to Vancouver? I have a full-time job for you in Vancouver if you, right? So the transition sometimes is right there, you just don't know it. And so you gotta, so being here today is what I'm saying, is being here today is a good thing. It can open doors for you. But I love it when I can get an athlete to come and join us at our organization.
He's recruiting you right now, you understand?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna give you a part.
I just wanted to add one thing as well, just from the games perspective. I know that we had, and what was integral to us was having volunteers assist us, but the other aspect of that was having interns come from the various schools. So Brock University, where I did my undergrad, has a great sport administration program, both undergrad and graduate level, but there's other schools that have, sport or recreation or those types of things. And there's opportunities to get involved in sport, to know what's your passion on the backside of sport. Is it coaching? Is it broadcasting? Is it on the admin side of things? Is it marketing and promotions? There's so many different avenues and areas that you can pursue. And there's opportunities out there as well, because a lot of sport organizations, and it's not just pro sports, there's the provincial sport organizations, whether it's Ontario Basketball Association or the NSOs, which is Basketball Canada, where they would welcome interns and people interested in giving back. So there's different opportunities and avenues to get a sense of what it is exactly that you'd like to pursue. And it's worth exploring all the range of opportunities there are as well. I mean, there's usually one person at the head, whether it's the president or CEO of whatever, but they're sort of a generalist and kind of have a little bit of knowledge about a whole bunch of different areas and are able to, you know, make quick snap decisions on things. But then you've got like a director of marketing, and they probably do really cool, fun things on the communications and promotion side of things. So there's different avenues to explore and different opportunities. It's just finding what's right for you and what you're passionate about.
Sport is such a connector for people, jobs, life skills. It's pretty incredible. Our evening has come to an end so very quickly. I feel like we could do this for hours. I'm having such a great time. I hate to have to do this and say goodbye, but I'm blown away by the depth of conversations that we've been able to have today, and a heartfelt thank you to all our amazing speakers. A round of applause. Let us collectively envision a future where sports becomes a beacon of inclusivity, breaking down the barriers that have long hindered the full participation of women. By championing diversity and inclusion in sports, we not only redefine the narrative, but we also inspire a generation of women to embrace their full potential. Thank you for being here this evening.